our success to good design. And every single thing. And we at Hector Beverages believe that designers should be worshipped. Like there's, like I come here. It's like my visit to Mecca. Like you get a chance to once in a lifetime to be in a room with so many creators. It's beautiful. Like it's humbling. I'm overjoyed and listening to these stories since morning, and it's brilliant. So thank you very much for having me here. So this is a story before the design. Before we came to our designers and gave the brief. This is what we do. I was 10-year-olds living in a small town in north of India. It was a courtyard where there is a big house in the center, and there are a lot of smaller houses on the side. These are rented places. I was one of them. And the landlady, we called her Mati. Every single winter, around the time of November, December, she'll make kanji. It's a thing which is made of purple carrots in a large earthen pot. And every winter she used to make it. And all the kids in the courtyard used to get one glass each every winter, like one glass. So you have to wait the whole year to get that one glass. I got greedy. I clearly remember, very vivid memory. In the afternoon, came out, sneaked out of my house, went like that. That earthen thing is in the center of the thing. Tried to get one glass out and drink it. It's my second glass of the year. I got caught. I got thrashed. It was okay to thrash kids during those years, right? We moved on from that place. Couple of years down the line, Mati died, but the taste of that drink kind of stayed with me. That all through my life, that taste of that kanji is there. Many years later, I found myself living in downtown Philadelphia. The part which I found extremely strange was, and very wonderful, very exciting, was this huge range of restaurants around me. There's I was living in 19 Chestnut, right down below our thing, there is an Indian restaurant. Across the street, there's a Korean restaurant, Spanish, Thai, every kind of restaurant in a matter of a couple of blocks. Now, how did that happen? How did all these restaurants from around the world came to one place? When I was growing up, in my town, in class 5th, there was somebody who opened a dosa place for the first time. And that guy also had to shut down. In 2 months, that dosa place didn't work out because nobody wanted dosa in north of India, Haryana, And the only thing which I remember was during my engineering college days, for the first time I started seeing these chow mein stalls here and there. So that was my first interaction with the foreign food being retail. Thank you. Foreign food being retail. Now, that's the thing which we try to study, this food migration. Why is it happening in certain places? And what impact does it have on society? And why is it not happening in some parts of India? Pulao, actually, at least it was happening all, for all of it, it was happening in Haryana also. So pulao, rice is one of my favorite dishes. Pulao, nobody notices, right? Something which is always sitting on the side of your table. But it has a brilliant history. 500 BC, Persia, first time somebody made pulao. Somebody made pulao 500 BC. And it traveled from there. The history is Persia, say Alexander the Great, Macedonia, traveled to Greek, Spain, there was Valencia, Pilaf, and then moved to France, through the Silk Route, different parts of the world, India, China. So pulao, which is, the interesting part is all these different sections, different regions were calling pulao their comfort food, it's their home food. Nobody's calling it a foreign food, but actually traveled with, as the migration happened of people, it kind of traveled along with it. And there are some other examples. Right now in US, if you go and ask a 10-year-old American, there's a good chance that she would tell you the staple food is a Mexican food. Like, there's a huge, humongous amount of growth of Mexican food in America, and Chipotle, Qdoba, they're giving McDonald's a run for its money, and this is the reason of like those 30 million migrants moving in last 100 years. So there are like a lot of other impacts, and there are a lot of other issues and other discussions about who will clean or not clean our gardens, but the food was, as these people became part of the mainstream, the food also started becoming mainstream and as integrated into the society as the people are. Pizza, right? Like, before 1930, it was not popular in Italy also. Seriously. Yeah, like, so some people from Neapolitan, like, they moved to New York, Harlem, they were living there, and they're like, men moved, very difficult for them to cook. So they started cooking pizza, which was like easier thing. And there it became part of the mainstream New York thing. Couple of companies picked up. What happened for rice in 2,500 years happened for pizza in like almost 100 odd years. Like from 1930 to now, like the journey is mind-boggling. Like couple of companies actually took it to a commercial scale, and it's almost an international food as pulao is. Closer home, Bangalore, this is where I work from now. The thing which I'm observing since last 10, 15 years, so you would have noticed it, but you won't generally point it out. Outside every food world or more store, you will find this Golgappe ka pani wala guy. Like, that is not there. Like in 1999 or 2000, in spite of all the traffic woes, etc., the other thing which was not there in Bangalore, there was no Golgappe in Bangalore. Now on every street you will find those guys. And so the logical explanation is the North Indians are migrating, they are making their software and eating Golgappas. And you go and ask this guy. So this guy is actually a migrant from UP itself, the guy who's selling Golgappa, like all these guys. And the first thing he'll say is, Kannada gottilla. Kannada nahi aata hai. And then you ask him who is consuming your Golgappas, and he'll tell you that a lot of it is being consumed by South Indians also. So so you see the migration of food happening between South Indians consuming Golgappa was like one couldn't think of. It happened like 10 or 15 years as people moved from one place to another. This Delhi, so no. So Delhi, momos are giving bread pakoda a run for its money as the favorite snack of that city. In 1999, if you had to go out and grab momo, there were only two places. One is there was a place outside Chanakya Theatre, and second was near Kamla Nagar. That's like not anybody from Delhi University would know. So now in every nook and corner you will find these momos thing, and every halwais are selling momos. So you don't notice it, right? Like every day, you're so busy in your thing, but that food migration is happening and happening at a very, very fast pace under your noses. This is what we try to do. This is what we try to make, try to take food. So in Bombay, Kalina, this is where near airport, 3 or 4 of my colleagues stay there. So they are from Bihar. They stay in this large dormitory area. The one thing which is common is every time somebody is going back, and one of them is from Darbhanga, so everybody, this guy is going back to Darbhanga, the other people will say, oh, sattu lete aana. Now, why is love for sattu there? And they're it's a very layered question, and there are a lot of reasons for that. The reasons being, there's an emotional attachment, there's a sense of, my own identity, and there's so many other things. And we're not even trying to answer that question. What we are trying to answer is, if sattu becomes, as Bihari population is migrating into Bombay and becoming part of the mainstream, can sattu become part of the mainstream food for Bombay? And that is the answer we're trying to find. Nita, like that other person is there is me. That's bad sketching. So Neera is my favorite person, most favorite person. She lives in Goa, near Kandivali. She makes absolutely the best kokum in the world. She taught me how to make kokum. Like the right amount of jeera has to go in, the right amount of lemon has to go in, and I learned my kokum from her, and that's what we put it out in the market. Now, in South Delhi, if you go and on a shelf, if a Konkani guy finds kokum, that guy is overjoyed. Like that guy is like, oh, thank you, and would buy it. But the success of this is this guy. This is a doctor. So this is actually like story which happened to me a couple of months back. So my father was having a cataract operation. He was in Artemis Hospital in Gurgaon, and I went along with him. And my father he's proud of what I do, and he's bragging on the operation table to a doctor that my son makes paper watering. And doctor is also telling him that, yeah, I like kokum a lot. And so that's a good moment. That's a moment of success, right? That's what you work for. When your father being told on the operation table that doctor is saying that I like paper wood kokum. So I went and talked to the doctor. Actually, doctor is also from Haryana. So, like, you expect a Haryanvi to like kokum is like a stretch, But I think as the thing which you're trying to do is take food from one region to another, and try to bridge those gaps. And probably like next time this doctor goes to Goa, like he'll have a couple of other things to talk about rather than normal North Delhi tourist questions. Coming back to my purple carrot, the magic tales of purple carrots. So I remember that taste, and for last 2.5 years, I'm trying to make it. So I have not been able to find the large quantity of purple carrots everywhere. So that thing has disappeared. Like it's not orange carrots were not there till 70 or 80 years back. They simply took over the world, and purple carrots kind of lost out on the race. They disappeared. And now we are trying to make this kanji, and you cannot make it. Like so they were like in the early stages. There were a lot of suggestions. Can you make it with blackcurrant? Can you add some color, to the orange carrot and make it? But if it's not original recipe, the taste which is there in my memory won't come alive ever again. So we search around. I spent like a lot of hours searching for where I can find purple carrots around the world. Finally, I landed in this place called Adana in Turkey. Like it's a very small airport. And there I found that there are like large tracts of lands and the farmers who are growing purple carrots. So finally, that was a boiler moment. So we get the first answer. I was there for first couple of days checking the quality of purple carrot. Very impressive. Evening, I went to a restaurant, and there I ordered a drink called Salgam. The taste is exactly similar to what kanji is. It's unbelievable. Like, you like at that moment, and then I studied and asked questions, and I realized that kanji as a drink was actually made in southern Turkey for the first time. It traveled around 800 years back. It traveled along the Silk Route, and it is a drink which is popular in different parts of that route. It's popular in Afghanistan, it's popular in north of India, it's popular in some parts of Kazakhstan, like with different names. And so that's great. I was very excited, and I brought this like 50 kg of carrot from that to come and experiment. Like we can make kanji in like our lab. So that was the time, like it was like 1.5, 2 years back, like there was a mad cow thing happening in Europe. And so this, like, the custom guy in Delhi, they stopped me, and they like put me on hold for 8, because you're like getting the live import. So that was like one incident, like, so we were put on hold. So we realized that importing carrots is not going to work. So we finally imported seeds that year. The carrots were impounded. I don't know what happened. So we imported seeds, and we first put up those seeds in a couple of places for the crop to come out. One in Palampur in Himachal, and second in Ujjain. So that was last year. The crop didn't happen. Like, somehow the flowering of the fruit didn't happen. So this year, this year, in fact, last year, like 2014, we again got the seeds in. Now we're sowing it in Ooty, and we're finally getting a very good crop. Like, exceptionally good purple carrots we're getting. And we are very, very close to making that drink, which I remember and I want to. See, the moral of the story essentially is that all of us have some purple carrots to chase in our life, and many in this room are doing it successfully and brilliantly and very, very, inspirationally. If you can chase your purple carrots and make the world a little bit better place, that'll be wonderful. Thank you.